The podcast so nice I accidentally hit the gimmick twice. Welcome back to Podfluxxx episode 71. Rick, how you doing, bud? It's been another long week for us trying to get ourselves all together here. So what's up with you? How's soccer?
Being a soccer dad is okay.
Yeah.
Some of those kids are fucking brats and annoying, but you know, it's
For,
just
Forget the kids. How are the soccer moms?
yeah, that's what I go
Yeah. Yeah.
for.
So you like the only one there without a minivan, or how does that work?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, Becky has her SUVs is she qualifies, so
Right,
but I do not, and I'm not going to. So
right. And that SUV is probably quite larger than the vehicle you are driving.
right.
You're so stereotypical. But speaking of stereotypical Mexicans, Ricky, I think I just got us canceled. But anyway, we are on episode 2 in season 2 of Lucha Underground now. I re rewatched the episode today, mostly just for the vignettes and kind of the promos and the feel of everything. And the real topic here that I want to talk about doesn't happen until like the post credit scene, for lack of a better term.
Mhm.
So, but there is so much happening on this show, and my God, do I have a lot of questions for you. All right.
Yeah.
So, this show opens with a super duper sweaty Prince Puma in a gym lifting weights, right? Like almost like awkwardly shined up, right?
Right.
Like straight out of a Puff Daddy party, just he was just gleaming, right?
Right.
And then Penta comes up from behind him and starts speaking to him in Spanish. So here's question number one. Prince Puma, aka Rick O'Shea,
Hmm.
right? Aka I think Trevor something or other from Kentucky.
Yes.
Any chance this man understood one word coming out of Puma's mouth?
No.
Out of Penta's mouth.
No, absolutely not.
No chance at all. And you can tell, like he might have known what the translation was, but Penta's,
Eh,
spitting his jive, and Puma's just like. But anyway, and then he says that on tonight's episode in the main event, they're going to be partners, but to please his master, that Puma is going to be next. And then we immediately go into the temple, and again, the temple is super dark, and we get the on camera with Vampiro and Striker, and Striker like straight up asks Vampiro if he's Penta's master, and Vampiro kind of begs off a little bit, says he's got nothing to do with it, and then we go into Johnny Mundo versus Killshot. So Killshot, Swerve Strickland, Shane Strickland, um, he was in the first season, correct?
I believe so. Like later in the first season, I know he
Right.
wasn't there like from the beginning, if he
Now,
was.
was was Swerve an ROH guy?
No. I think that was a Ricochet friend hire. Swerve was at the time we were both flying out of Philadelphia and he was living in Pennsylvania. I think he had his kids, I think, lived in Maryland or something. So he's like a Northeast guy.
Yeah, I know he did some CZW and
Yes.
some I think what is it? Northeast. The people, you know who they are. NEW.
Yeah, he was more of a CZW guy, if anything. He didn't do ROH before ROH was like bought up by Tony Khan. I don't think he really did, if any, ROH, to be honest.
I could swear that I remembered him being on a what's the WrestleMania weekend show? The ROH one, Supercard of Honor.
Oh, he may have dropped in, yeah, like towards the end. He was just like a pretty popular independent guy for the most part, but I remember him regularly doing CZW stuff.
Would you? What
As
did you? What'd you think of Swerve? Was he? What kind of guy was he in the locker room?
Oh, he's a great guy, super nice. I remember his first day because he patterned a lot of his signature stuff after Ricochet stuff. He was like for a lot of the stuff that he would do was almost identical to what Ricochet was doing. So I remember he had his first, I don't know if it was a dark or something, but he had his first match technically. And then I remember Eric talking to me about having a talk with him, saying that they liked him and they want to do stuff with him, but they really didn't need another version of Ricochet.
Right.
Like in other words, a nicer, they wanted me to nicely put it like, hey, stop, do your own shit. Don't do a watered down version of the top guys version stuff. So I remember sitting and talking with them and I said, hey, I wanted to talk to you about something. And he was, at least to my face, was open to like any, criticism or whatever. And I just told him, I said, man, your stuff is solid. Like you're athletic, like you got all the tools, like kind of just make it your own stuff, And I said, because if you do it one week and then Ricochet does the real stuff the next week, we're all kind of like,
Mhm.
um, I said, just kind of make it your own. And, you know, and he was like, no, yeah, I understand. I think he just was like comfortable. He was doing what he was comfortable doing and what he had already kind of mastered on the independents, right? Like
Right.
he was doing Ricochet stuff on indie shows that
But
nobody.
Ricochet wasn't there.
Correct. Yes. Yes. So I mean, he's a great guy, super polite, nice. He was in the military and stuff, so he's on time. He works hard. He is a guy that you want. I could see why AEW gave him. Hopefully, he gave him millions of dollars. Because he's earned it. He's put his time in. He's put his work. He has kids. I'm all for him getting overpaid by all means. Because I mean, I know him personally, but uh, at the time, he was just like we all are, especially when you're younger, right? And you get into a position like this, you're really just trying to find your way, right? Like you just want to do everything and as best as you can, every freaking night. So, he really grew up through the show. And then by the time he got to WWE, NXT, and all that, you just see him develop in a big way. And then now he's kind of the guy.
Well, him and Johnny Mundo have their match, and I'm sure you were there. I'm sure you don't remember it, but it was exactly what you think it was. A lot of bouncy, flippy, but it was exciting. It was good stuff. The crowd eats everything up there, everything. And
Yeah. By season 2, I remember we were the first dark match for season 2 on the first night. We did like a 6 or an 8-man tag or something, just like 6-7 minutes to get the crowd. That crowd was chanting names and phrases and stuff before, like as they were filing in. They
yeah,
were just like the second they got within, they could see the ring, that it was hot.
yeah,
So I remember I was with I think Bengala or Ricky Marvin under a mask gimmick from AAA. We were all in a tag, and I remember telling him, I said, look, because he does like the Tajiri handspring back elbow. And I said, look, this crowd is going to be just nuts. I said, so let's me and you start with a little bit of like lucha catch wrestling type stuff. Let's run into a high spot where it ends with you hitting that elbow, and I'll go to the floor. And I said, you just strike a pose. I said, all the heels jump in, and the baby faces like leap over the top ropes, like into those rolls, like because they were all masked AAA guys, like, and then do something, and then kind of back us off, And I said, this place will lose their shit, and that's exactly what happened. A tackle drop down handspring elbow, and we could have took it home from there, like
Right.
30 seconds into the match. Yeah, but the crowd was they just wanted their Lucha Underground, and they didn't care who was in the ring doing what. We were all over. I could compare it, I guess, to like the Attitude Era, right? When like even Los Boricuas was getting, crazy, insane pops for coming out and just beating the shit out of somebody, DOA's over, just riding their bikes down. It was that type of atmosphere I could imagine. Like, this is the only thing I could compare it to, I guess.
So we're going to talk about motorcycles. But anyway, so they have their match. Johnny Mundo goes over, and he starts cutting a babyface promo on Mil Muertes, right? And then everybody's favorite dipshit, Brian Cage, interrupts him and comes out, and he starts cutting a babyface promo where he's saying that when Mil Muertes is healthy, he's gonna take the title off him, and then Johnny Mundo starts cutting a heel promo on Brian Cage, and then Brian Cage is cutting a babyface promo on Mundo, comes to the ring, challenges him. Mundo bails. Cage turns around. Mundo comes back, gets on him. Cage reverses everything. Gives him a shoulder tackle that he did. What does he call that? His finish, the Starship Enterprise or whatever.
Right.
He like did one standing off the shoulder tackle,
Of course
and
he
then
did.
and then powders again. And what is going on here?
Exactly. I'm not sure. I don't recall that particular incident.
I'd imagine you wouldn't, because you would be like, wait a like, you'd be the first guy to raise his hand and be like, we've got a continuity error here. But go ahead, I digress.
No, yeah. I honestly never really watched a lot of the matches um, in the back or later on, really. I would only watch like guys like Matt Cross if he had a singles match with somebody that I thought was going to be like a show stealer or Angelico, or I didn't really watch much of Mundo's stuff because it was like he choreographed every match too much like a fight scene, and because he was still doing a lot of movies and stuff at the time and acting, so he was all in with this Hollywood style matches, so I couldn't really get into them at all. Uh, you know, Cage is not good on the mic or in the ring to me, so I definitely wasn't watching any of his stuff. So I don't know. I mean, whatever aired, I guess. They may have.
Yeah.
I don't know if they switched it or this was Mundo's idea of like, yeah, I know what we'll do and I'll do this, and which I'm sure that's exactly what it was. Like, no, this is how we make it work. Try to get himself over and Cage over like as a monster. But I mean, I don't know. It just,
I really like how Mil Muertes sits there like he just doesn't give a shit. You know what I mean? Cage is like saying all this stuff to him, and he's like, you know, it's incredible. Now, but they go right from that, and counting this promo, we now go into like 6 minutes of scenes, right? But they're quick. Things are moving, which is, it's not like, these guys did what everything they had to do, but they did it inside of 90 seconds, right?
Right.
But now we go to this weird, sexy star scene where, like, she's in a hotel room and she's strapped down to a chair, and it's Marty the Moth,
Yeah.
right? And he's cutting this promo, and I have no idea what he's talking about, right? It's like one of those old Bray Wyatt promos where it sounds good, but you've never heard any of those words touching each other before.
Yeah.
And he's got a moth in his hand, and then I guess he's teasing the debut of his sister.
Yes.
Okay, and but Sexy Star, she's just like moaning, right? Where if I'm watching this in one room and my wife was in the other room, she'd think I was watching something I probably shouldn't have been. And then we go right from that to this PJ Black vignette, right? And he's riding on a motorcycle. And then there are two guys riding behind him. And you're like, oh man, these guys must be friends. They're out for a ride. And he pulls over in some motel parking lot and then gets into a knife fight with these other two motorcyclists, okay? But this is all interspliced with like training match footage, and he's doing like an overlay. So like he's talking about, being the Darwolf and whatever, but there's a knife fight occurring. And then these guys take off their motorcycle helmets and they're wearing lucha masks. Ricky Reyes, who booked this shit?
I think he did. Now that you're saying that, I remember now the van ride over the like the week we were getting ready to start doing shows, and him telling, it wasn't me, but I think I was sitting right behind him, but he maybe telling Angelico or somebody I was talking to about the knife scene and riding the bikes, because he for a short time moved to LA from Florida, but he rode his bike from Florida to LA.
Of course he did.
Yeah. So that was, he loved riding his bike, and he really was like so PJ would go back right in between like shows or whatever during the season, and he would tell us that he would go, what is it when you jump off a cliff and you hang glide?
Jumping.
Hang glide?
Yeah,
No,
hang gliding and base jumping.
yes. So he would go do that, but he would like have this big tent, and he would live in the tent for like a week straight, like, and just do that all day, every day. Like that's all this motherfucker did. He was so weird. He was like, he goes, yeah, he goes, well, I go home and I get all my stuff. He goes, and I like set up like a camp, and I just hang glide like everywhere. And
well, the crazy thing is when you get to the bottom of whatever you just jumped off of,
you have to hike back.
Up.
Yeah, you have to hike back, right? And that's why he's like, I just stay there because I like doing it. Anyways, so yeah, I remember him talking about this scene because I was like halfway kind of listening, because he said it turned into a knife fight and this and that, and he goes, yeah, it's gonna be great. So I think it was like another one of his like, I got this great idea. I was in WWE, I know what I'm doing, DJ, allowed a lot of those ex WWE guys to have a lot of, stroke. So So yeah, I remember him talking about it though. Now that as soon as you said the knife fight, I started thinking like I remember, like I can see like him telling somebody about like how excited he was, and I'm thinking in my head like this all sounds really stupid, like but maybe it looked cool. I don't know. I didn't see it. So
No, man. I mean, it looked cool,
right.
except for when they spliced in like video of him like in the ring. You know,
Yeah.
and it was like dark building, him in the ring, just with one
Mhm.
guy in a mask. So it was like regular wrestling vignette, spliced in with knife fight, with him doing a narration, and they spent money. This wasn't a guerrilla production
Yeah.
because there was a jib shot that was up
Oh.
high and did a 360 and was catching different angles.
Oh
Like
wow.
they spent some money on this thing,
Yeah.
and I just at the end of it, uh, I couldn't believe it, especially since it went into his debut against Willie Mack. Uh, before we talk about the result of this match, which uh, I want you to talk about Willie Mack because I never really gave Willie Mack the time of day. And then I was watching this match and I watched this guy who looks like a later years junkyard dog do a
Yeah.
kip up and then a standing moonsault.
Right.
So what's up with Willie Mack?
Okay. So yes, Willie Mack. First off, personality wise, is one of the nicest humans you'll ever meet. Like so chill, down to earth. I think he lives in Las Vegas. Um, do you know the Willie Mack story about getting signed by WWE and how he ended up in Lucha Underground?
I know that he was signed and then did he not pass the physical or the wellness?
No. What happened was he did a tryout at NXT. They talked to him, offered him a deal. He signed it. Then he waited. They never gave him a start date. So for months, he was just getting paid at home. Well, he came to Lucha Underground towards the end of season one, and was
Mm-hmm.
talking with Johnny Mundo, and it was like telling him about it. So Johnny was like, "Hey man, you need to call so and so." He was like, and tell them to get on the ball, right? Well, what ended up happening was shortly after they signed him or the deal was done, they went and saw Apollo Crews and
Mm,
signed him. And he does the exact same stuff, just looks like a
Apollo
pro.
Crews.
Yeah, right. Like a pro bodybuilder, right? So they eventually, I don't know if you would call it like released him or whatever. So our Ultima Lucha one, he was there talking with like the producers and stuff, and was saying like, I don't know what's going on. Is there a spot for me here? And like Conan was like all about trying to get him to Mexico, and wanted to use him on everything. So eventually, by the time season two came rolling around, he had jumped on board because WWE had released him or whatever. But he never, like, I don't even think he got a place yet in Florida because they kept telling him like, okay, we'll be in touch.
But they
So
were sending him checks?
yeah, he said that yes, because that was the first thing Mundo asked him. He's like, are you getting paid yet? And he's like, I've been even getting paid. And he goes, and they just haven't told you anything, or and because I was like eavesdropping because I was curious like when he was leaving, what was going on. I wanted to know. Willie Mack is a California, or was a Las Vegas guy, but he kind of grew up with us in Southern California a lot. So uh, he's a good friend of mine, and I just wanted to know, what the deal was. Um, but ultimately, I heard through somebody else, I can't remember who, but they said, well, they want him, and he's a great personality, but he looks like that. And then they got Apollo Crews, who does the same moves but looks like this. And I said, okay, well, in WWE's world, right? Like, hey, we got one,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we're all full here.
yeah.
The quota was met, so no need to have two, right?
Well, isn't
So
that like the thing that you told me when you had one of your tryouts, and when they were like, "Well, he's he's a good Mexican wrestler. We got 40 of those or whatever."
yeah, they also said the exact same thing to Ricochet, his first NXT tryout. They said, well, we have Neville, so thanks for coming.
Yeah,
And I remember Ricochet telling me that. He was like, well, he goes, what is it that you do? We have Neville does everything that you do.
right,
He's bigger than you.
right.
So ultimately, it was kind of like, well, we have the flippy guy,
Or that's
and
like
then
how they told Vinny, "We're not looking for Americans right now."
yeah,
Or how they realized Kai wasn't actually from the Philippines, and they backed off of that too. But
yeah,
so what a gimmick! So they're sending him checks,
yes,
and I don't care who you are. WWE sending you checks, you're depositing those, right?
sure. And then think about. I always think about this, right? Then when they let you go, they still give you 90 days.
Yeah.
So no matter what, you've got at least a 90-day contract that you're getting paid to
Hmm.
basically do nothing.
And there was clearly an oversight happening, right? Because it's like when WCW accidentally didn't fire the Iron Sheik in 1990 or whatever.
And then it relapsed, right?
Yeah, and they just kept paying him and paying him. What a
Sure.
gimmick! You know how pissed at Johnny Mundo I would be if I was Willie Mack. I would have never made that phone call. I would have just kept collecting the checks.
Well, I don't think it was the phone call that did it. I think that they just finally were like, okay, let's let this guy go, because he didn't find out till later that he wasn't going. It was more of a we got Apollo Cruz and we don't need Willie
Yeah.
Mack, is what it come down to. But no, Willie Mack is a lot like JD. I would say,
Right.
he looks the way he does, and he does everything perfect, and then the rest of us get all mad. So, um, but he's a character though, man. Like I think he was perfect for Lucha Underground.
So anyway, it's PJ Black's debut,
Yeah,
and Willie Mack beats him.
of course.
So they spent the money and filmed this knife fight scene, and then
Because TJ Black thought it would be cool, and they were like, okay.
8 minutes later he was looking at the ceiling of the temple.
Yeah.
Right. So uh, so now we go to a vignette for Cobra Moon. Now
Thunder Rosa.
that was Thunder Rosa.
Yes.
Okay, there's a motorcycle in this vignette also.
Oh, really?
So somebody's got it's parked.
Oh,
Nobody's riding it, but there's an affinity for motorcycles here.
Southern California, baby. Everyone's got a bike.
Jesus, you ever ride a bike?
No, I'm afraid
No,
of falling off.
right? Because you're outside already. Like
Yeah.
what a preposterous thing.
Yeah. I'm not trying to skid up my knees and shit. It hurts.
Ian, Ian bought a bike.
Of course he did.
My friend Ian
Yeah, I know, Ian.
crashed it,
Oh, no.
destroyed his foot,
Uh-oh.
bought another bike.
Well, that'll fix it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
All right, Carrie Von Erich, go ahead.
yep. So that was that. Um, so yeah. So she's in an alleyway fight in this vignette. Okay, and she's just apparently in Boyle Heights, Los Angeles, right? You can turn down the wrong street, and there's just dudes with lucha masks ready to go. So they do that vignette, and then we get to the Puma and Penta versus the Disciples of Death. Okay, and Puma hits his 630, and Penta blind tags him right before it, and then steals the pin,
That's it.
and they have a fight after the match, and then we go into the credits, and then we hear a voice talking about his mask being passed down from generations, a mask that he was supposed to wear, but he ended up going a different route, and that mask now belongs to Dragon Azteca.
Oh, okay.
And then we get the close up, the reveal shot of Rey Mysterio. So we talked a little bit last week or a week and a half ago about, Cholo knew, 10 years in advance that Rey was coming because Cholo gets the info like that.
Right.
But what are some of the other things, like what are other people in the locker room saying? We got Rey now. What's the Is everybody like, this is the thing that's going to put us over the top? Like, what's the feeling? What's the mood and the tone inside of the locker room when you get Rey Mysterio Jr.?
It was very different from like hearing that we would get Del Rio. Um, I don't know if it had more to do with like reputation or the thing about the Del Rio thing was we were excited because we knew it would get us a lot of buzz. The thing about getting Rey was like a whole nother level. It was like, man,
Credibility.
right. Like all of a sudden we're here to stay type of feeling. Is how we all looked at it. I think it was more of a because Rey's footprint is so much bigger and solid in the wrestling world that we really thought like no one could have ever imagined that this little startup group would land like the greatest, worldwide recognized luchador ever, right? So the idea that we would get Rey was, you know, it just lit a fire under everybody, and including the personnel, like the staff and the executives and stuff. They really were like, hell yeah. Like it was very we were all united in the same mindset of this is it, this is what we were looking to get. This was like the thing that was going to put us here and keep us here, really. So it was a very, very positive as it could be.
So it's high fives all around in the locker room,
Absolutely.
in the office. Everybody's stoked. This is gonna do you. This is what's gonna put you over the top.
Yes.
Now, when Rey gets there,
Mm,
right? He one of the boys, or
yes.
Rey's in a different room. Rey's got 40 people with him.
No, it was again, a complete opposite feeling than when Del Rio came in. I had met Del Rio prior to him coming to Lucha Underground, and he remembered me, so he was cool with me. But he wasn't like walking around bullshitting, laughing a whole lot. I'm not saying that he came in and he was mad. No,
He
but
wasn't
he did.
putting Morrison cards in people's bags.
Yeah, yeah. But he was a little more to himself. Yes, he did have people that we didn't know who they were or why they were always around him, you know. Where Rey was like, he just came strolling in by the practice ring while all our dumbasses were in there doing God knows what to each other. And he's laughing, and we turn around, and it's just Rey Mysterio with a big giant diamond watch, like giggling and laughing at us, like without his mask on, and just kind of like hey man, saying hi to everybody. And then we were all like, whoa, like he's here, like, and he's cool. Like the one day he came up, and like I was talking with Chavo, and he kind of bumped me from I was he came up from behind me and kind of bumped me like hey, and I turned around and I was like, Rey, and I was like, oh man, it's so great to see you. And he's like, hey, how's it going, bro? You know, like he came up to my dumbass to say hi to me, right?
Right.
Like what, you know, it was completely different atmosphere and attitude than when Del Rio was there. I liked Del Rio being there, and I thought it helped us when we needed it, especially for that first season, right? We needed something, right? Um, although, you know, we had Morrison, and then we had you know, they were building Puma and Phoenix and all them. I also heard the first season that we got real close to getting Shelton Benjamin, but that didn't work out. So Del Rio was great, I thought, but it was just like I said, I can't stress it enough. It was just a whole nother level with Rey all the way around. Like it was like wow, like
Do you think he was purposely trying to make it like let it be known that he was kind of making himself available to everyone? You know what I mean? Like he probably figured that people were going to look at him with the stigma of, you know, this guy's going to sit in a room by himself. You know, the what do we used to call it? Big, like he was gonna he was trying to avoid being labeled like he was big leaguing people. You know what I mean?
yeah. No, I think Rey's just a good dude all the way around. Like you also have to remember like where he came. So Del Rio was a son of a very famous luchador, right?
Right.
So
I even know his name.
Dos Caras Jr. Yeah. So I think he was just brought up in a different way to where Rey, although he was a nephew of a famous wrestler, um, they put him through the grind. I would say more. Plus, he had the size issue. Uh, you know, I think he was just brought up a different way. No, I don't. It certainly wasn't. Well, I got to go in there and be nice to all these guys. It wasn't because, I mean, if you ever meet Rey in any way, shape, or form, he's just gonna talk to you like he talks to everybody else. Like it's really amazing. Same thing with Eddie Guerrero. I met Eddie Guerrero one time. Uh,
Is it during that Ring of Honor run?
no. It was when he was right after he won the belt. I was doing darks, and I had known, you know, I knew Chavo, but I never met Eddie until after he won the belt. And then I met him just one time, and it was like a handshake thing, but it was this very similar where he just like really wanted to know, hey bro, how are you? How's things going? You know, and wanted to take a minute to, you know, I don't think it's to entertain me, but he just genuinely, he knows you're a wrestler because you're there, and maybe it is because I'm Mexican. I don't know, but it was more of a, you know, kind of like, you know, we're in this together type of thing. Like I don't know. That's kind of how I just feel with Rey. I think it was like he really thought he was going to be a part of something really cool because to him, he always seemed super excited. And I remember when him and Puma put their match together, he wanted to do everything that Puma wanted to do. And Puma was like basically emulating what him and Eddie had did in 97. And they did multiple things that was similar. And Rey came to the back because I was there for that match. And that's a whole fucking, that could be a whole podcast in itself. But like Rey came to the back and said, besides Eddie, that's one of the best wrestlers I've ever been in the ring with. And he was like blown away that he did everything with him that he did. And it was crazy. It was because I remember they were putting the match together because I was like, well, fuck, I'm gonna go watch history here, you know,
Yeah.
because Rey was down to do everything, you know, and then they would walk through it and it was perfect, boom, and Rey was like, damn, like he kept saying like, okay, let's go, okay. By the time it was showtime, Rey was doing squat jumps and he was
Jacked up.
right. He was ready to be Rey Mysterio, and and it was crazy. But no, overall, Rey was positives all the way through. Like, you couldn't ask for a better experience with with the top, right? Like one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
So you mentioned that you turned around and he was there and he had no mask on. Were most of these AAA guys walking around free facing in the locker room, or how many of these guys are actually like walking the building with their mask on? You know what I mean?
well, they had to have him on once we like, because there's so many people in the lobby, so they had him like during transportation. But once we got in the back, everybody took them off. Like, nobody had nobody was doing Mil Mascaras. I wrestled on a few shows of Mil Mascaras, and he walked around with his mask all the time in the shower, everything. It was crazy. He would change them; they would be different masks throughout the day.
He has a shower mask.
Yeah, he had a shower mask. He had his walk to the building mask. Yeah. Like getting in and out of the vans and stuff, there was fans always on the outside, so the guys wore them. But no, other than that, no, not really. Like, he wore it when he walked in, and then once he got into the building and he was in a secure area, he would just take it off, and then he was just in the back, like hanging out with everybody. So.
All right. Any real relation with him and Dragon Azteca?
I think it is his nephew.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So, did you notice like more of like Rey gravitate towards him more than anybody else, or anything in the locker room, or
No.
at the
No.
ring?
No. Rey Horace is his name that did the Dragon Azteca, but no. If anything, Rey Horace, he would follow Rey around, but it wasn't like Rey Mysterio was giving him special attention on purpose or butting up. I mean, we all kind of followed Rey around, especially like when he came into a room.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of eventually stopped talking and started listening. So it was never no. Because like I said, he was so cool. Like, if you wanted to ask him questions, if you wanted to talk to him, he was there. So, and he was always all over the place. He was hanging out in the gym. He was in the practice ring, laughing at everybody. He was just one of the boys. It was weird.
Was he watching guys' matches?
Yeah, he would watch them. Like, if you asked him specifically, hey, can you give me, critique this? I asked him a couple of times. Obviously, Cholo asked him every match, so I knew he was watching our stuff. So it was good, because then Cholo would give me the Rey update every day.
Right.
Oh, Rey said we did this, and he liked this. So
surprised Cholo didn't invite him to the ring. You want to come with us, or
yeah. You want to come sleep in my house? Yeah.
I got pizza rolls.
Yeah, pizza rolls. You down? So yeah, no, he was very much, a part of really just the team, right? Like, he instantly became one of the boys, which made it weird to know that, like, like for me, just getting on the plane, coming back home, thinking like, I just hung out with Rey Mysterio for like 4 days straight,
Right. That was another thing that I was interested in. The taping schedule for Rey Mysterio, right? Was it like, say, 2 weeks in a row, 4 days, we're going to tape all of Rey's stuff so we can get him out of here? Or was it like, hey, man, we're taping for 6 weeks, Rey's here for 6 weeks?
So all during the season, he was there. He didn't miss anything. I believe I'd have to go back and watch. I don't know if it was Ultima Lucha 2 or 3. He was not there in the building. They had taped vignettes for his stuff for one of those big shows. I can't remember which one it was. But no, he was pretty much available. From my understanding, the contract that they had signed him to was like he kind of put on priority. It was going to be like, look, if we need you for these types of things, and the El Rey Network like shows that he was on and stuff, seemed to be pretty easygoing and worked well with them.
So I know you can be optimistic about things, right? But I also know that you can be very realistic about things. So, what was the percentage of you the minute Ray walked through the door that started looking at the clock for when he was heading back to WWE?
I heard he signed for 2 years, so I knew that we were at least getting a season 3.
Mm-hmm.
So that eased my mind a little, especially just having Reyes, and you know what I mean. I was like, thank God Ray signed for that. At least we know we got a couple years of this, you know. Um, yeah, and then everybody kind of had that, you know, after even Puma was, his clock was ticking, right? Every season was a hard negotiation with him because WWE was after him the whole time. He was. I mean, I talked to him about it. He wouldn't sign longer than a 1 year or one season agreement, and they kept telling him 3 to 5 is what they were trying to get him to put down, and he was like, absolutely not. That had more to do with their problems with him going to Japan and stuff like that.
Right.
So, but with Ray, I was told that the El Rey Network was pretty happy with a guaranteed like 2 seasons of having Rey Mysterio on the show. So, but yeah, I think we all knew, everybody there, Morrison included, that eventually they were going to get brought back.
Right. The clock was ticking. Was
Yeah.
was Morrison though, like, you can kind of like, you can look at Ray and you can be like, oh man, the phone is gonna ring any day and Ray
Yeah.
can go running. Were you looking at Morrison kind of just like, he's one of us now?
Um, I thought about that a lot. Like he stayed all the way through. He had so many side projects. Like he was trying to get more involved into Hollywood stuff, and he was really passionate about that stuff. So once his independent schedule started picking up, that's when I thought, all right, he's gonna contact somebody and he'll be back. Like he was one of those guys you just knew. I It's like I could see the future with a guy like that because he's a one-trick pony. He can only just be John Morrison, right?
Right.
So I knew in 2 years, 2 out of a 3-year deal, they're going to be like, okay, cool this guy off and he can go away at any point now. The return pop is gone. We put him with his buddy. It's a bunch of haha. He's a mid-card guy, because he didn't evolve in any way.
He's two-dimensional.
Yes, he didn't evolve in any way where he stepped out of his comfort zone to challenge himself, to try something new. He just said, this is what works. This is what I'm known for. This is what I'm going to do. And that's all he did. And I'm not a fan of guys like that are only one trick pony, that like, because once it wears off, it's like, okay, you're just doing the same shit. We don't need you here. So if WWE let him go before,
Parkour.
yeah. So yeah. So if WWE let you go because before, I knew he said he had like a neck injury or whatever, but he wasn't moving up the ranks anyways, So he just jumped right back into that mid-card spot, wrote it out, and now he's even in a worse position in a worse company. So
All right. Well, you've got Ray, and we've got all of that set. Now, the last thing I wanted to ask you about Lucha Underground tonight, before we jump into our new segment of unrelated topics, um, the Lucha Underground contracts, how difficult were they to get out of?
They weren't difficult like everybody said and made it out to be.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I'll say this. For the handful of crybabies that were on Twitter complaining about it, they are trying to make themselves seem more valuable and more wanted than they were. Because let me just say this. If WWE really wanted them that bad, they would have gotten them,
Right.
right? Right. Okay. WWE didn't need any of them and knew that WWE is going to be there tomorrow and Lucha Underground wasn't. So they weren't in a big hurry, okay? I'm going to say that. The only thing that was a serious issue had more to do with like the CMLL New Japan connection. And that would be for guys, independent guys that had that option, because that was an issue with the AAA connection with Lucha Underground.
Right.
So, because CMLL did this tournament that PJ Black did, and he got in trouble for it and was told that he might get sued. And they had called me to do that too, that tournament. But I had asked DJ about it, and then DJ had Eric call me and was like, "Sorry, bro, it's a no-no." And I was like, "Are you going to compensate for this missed income?" And he said, "I'll call Tony, and we'll square it away." So then I got a raise. So, and it's the similar thing that they did with Ricochet.
Right.
He missed Super Juniors and missed the title match that they had built up to, and then Lucha Underground the next year was like, we feel terrible. Here's $10,000 more a night or whatever it was, and they try to make it right. So, yeah, as far as that stuff, it was not just not that big of a deal. It was like, I know it was like Eva Lise. I think Thunder Rosa was trying to act that way. I know that Karrion Kross at the end of it was having a little bit of difficulty, but they ended up getting him anyways, and guys like Joey Ryan and them, they were just trying to act like, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to get out of this." Like, bitch, you ain't going. Yeah, bitch, you ain't going nowhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like NXT didn't need Joey Ryan, and they weren't coming for him. So, but no, it just it wasn't as nearly as bad. But of course, they made it out to be the worst.
One of the reasons I bring it up is because you guys, like, if they're simplistic to get out of, you guys can bring in a big name like a Rey Mysterio, and realistically, there's a great risk of you turning around in a month and he's gone. You know what I mean? Like, when you've got a name like that, somebody who's already got money, probably got a pretty good lawyer, and you assign them to a contract over here, and then, like you said, if WWE wants them, they're gonna get them. Like, there's always, like, it would always be in the back of my mind, like, this guy could walk out the door tomorrow.
Yes. I don't know if it ever happened or it happened in any way in Lucha Underground, but I know that there's like a buyout type option.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure maybe Rey's lawyer said, "Look, if WWE comes, they pay these Lucha Underground guys X amount of dollars and then you're free." And Lucha Underground agrees to the amount. They could say, "Oh, that's a risk we could take." I don't know. But as far as like the independent guys, like especially like a Brian Cage or Thunder Rosa and all them, that was all just fucking, they wanted the internet community, right, to be like, let them go so we could see them on SmackDown. Like, nah, bitch. None of you motherfuckers are going to SmackDown anyways, and at that time, the black and
calling.
Yeah, and at that time, even the black and gold brand, you guys wouldn't be able to keep up with the Undisputed Era type of matches. You know what I mean? Like they were, none of them were on that level yet. I mean, even guys that can do amazing things like Phoenix and them, they weren't going to have those good matches because psychology wise, they'd be fucked every which way. They would have no idea, when, why, and where to do all the stuff that they were doing. So no, it was not nearly as bad. I had asked about a technical release when I found out like season 5 wasn't happening, and they had said, yeah, like if you need paperwork, we can send it to you. Just let us know. And I was like, well, I'm good. I was just curious about it. And it wasn't that, again, I wasn't one of those guys rocking the boat either,
Right.
So I think me being more professional about it and just asking in case I did need it, because I started reaching out to a couple people, but I wasn't pushing anything, I was like, boy, what I need is this hectic travel schedule again. I just wasn't feeling it,
Right. What I need is this nice, comfortable plane to LA and
Yeah.
this fantastic cheeseburger in the beautiful hotel room.
Well, the thing with me, right, was like at that point in time, by the time Lucha Underground had ended, I was already kind of, in a little bit of denial of when this was all going to end.
Right.
Mostly because Reyes was getting bigger, so I was kind of looking like, when is the right time to, I'm not banged up. I'm not, I can still kind of walk correctly.
Escape with your faculties.
Yeah, I was trying to get out alive, right? So, and then right as I was thinking about it, then New Japan called, and that was like a major thing for me to go back. And then I kind of felt like when me and Rocky had our match, I was like, I think that's it. Like, like at that point I was looking for which way's the exit door,
Right.
because I thought I had that moment with him. That was special for me for many reasons. And then,
You've gone full circle.
yeah, I kind of, by that time I was here, and then I was cool with just being a Texas guy, like, so
A lot of
but
ground to cover in Texas.
yeah, but I mean, but it like, especially where we live, it's kind of like in the center. So I'm like kind of 2 to 4 miles away from every major city, so technically I could be home every night, even if I was still doing 3 nights a week,
Right.
So, yeah, but I mean, as far as the hoopla behind the contracts, they were never as difficult as everyone made it out to be.
All right. Well, we're going to switch into our unrelated topics before we get into the next week's episode with the fantastic Detective Reyes vignette. So, boy, I can't. I'm going to try and figure out a way to have that playing in the background of us for the entire episode. So, but on our unrelated topics, Ricky, have you seen the meme from Dynamite last week of Lance Archer looking like the $5 Drew McIntyre?
It was everywhere for a couple days. Yes, I did.
How do you feel about Shelton Benjamin and MVP in AEW?
So I did see a couple of stuff. I think they did some vignettes, at least for Collision and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I saw the one with Leo Rush. Did you see that one?
No.
So I think Leo Rush signed with AEW again,
Mm-hmm.
and then Shelton Benjamin MVP interrupted him. I didn't like it at all. It made MVP and Shelton Benjamin look less than, because first off, I don't see Lio Rush as being anything worth chasing after and
Right.
interacting with for them. So I think it's great because Shelton Benjamin can still go. MVP's I think is an excellent mouthpiece that could help in a big way. I mean, fuck, I would let him run the back too because he's got the big picture mindset, you know. I mean, it's a good catch for AEW. Now, of course, they've got a bunch of good catches, right? It's what they do with them is their fucking problem. They're gonna TNA this fucking shit.
Everything is great.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Everything's so great, great show, great, you know, great ratings drop. But yeah, it's what they do with it. It's I don't know, man. I wish I would have found that money mark. You know, AEW would look way different. Wouldn't even be AEW, but it would look way different if I was involved.
Imagine if we would have found Tony Khan
Exactly.
in 2012.
Yeah.
Dude.
But so yeah, I didn't like Lance Archer's look. I am happy that MVP and Shelton are there, but everyone's only talking about when's Lashley getting there.
That was my next question.
So what good is it? I would have held them all off to come together. Because right now, all we're talking about is Lashley coming in, and MVP and Shelton Benjamin should have their own. We should be hyped up to see them. If you're not going to bring them in all at once, what's the point in bringing them in as a individually or one at a time? You're kind of stepping on everyone's dick.
Yeah, but you know what? I think it might be better for Shelton, without Lashley right away, because he can maybe step out of the role that WWE has cast him in for such a long time. Like Shelton goes out and picks up wins and gets over and kind of can establish himself in the upper mid, or like the mid upper. Then when Lashley gets there, he's not just Bobby Lashley's flunky.
Okay, I would look at it to do it the other way around. MVP and Lashley show up. And then let Lashley because Lashley's the quote unquote bigger star from the other company. And then Shelton makes the save. And right. now Shelton is, more but AEW is not going to do it. They're not going to build it that way. They're not going to look at it as they're not looking at it as making these guys big stars. They look at it like they're already big stars and we're just going to rub off Orange Cassidy all over their crotch. That's it.
Here's what's going to happen. They're eventually going to put them... Henry, stop. This fucking dog. They're eventually going to put themselves in the position where Bobby Lashley and Bobby Lashley type guys are going to get there from WWE, and Tony Khan's going to go, all right, you got 12 minutes with Orange Cassidy, and Orange is over. And these people are going to look at Tony Khan like he's got, fried green turds hanging out of his mouth. And eventually the foot is going to get put down and he's going to get bullied out of his book by people who actually know how to do this, right? You think he's going to tell Bobby Lashley, listen, man, you got to go put over Sammy Guevara, or, just go out there and Kyle Fletcher is going to catch a quick one on you? It ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. When Thunder Rosa hits the ring powder.
Right, yeah. Pretty out of your mind. But so you never know. I mean, that could...
They're going to fumble it, and they're going to ruin whatever momentum they possibly could have had. Because I don't even think it's momentum. It's not a strong presentation of those guys. They're not interacting with the right guys already. Like I said, MVP, like you got to find that clip. It's the most uncomfortable looking interaction, and you could just tell that everyone is like not feeling it. So
I
it's not gelling well.
I saw a clip with like Nana and Swerve and MVP and Shelton that I thought was pretty good. But you know what? Now that I'm even thinking about it, think about all of the non AEW homegrowns, right? Rusev, or excuse me, Miro, Andrade, anybody who has come from WWE has been put in the position where they had to put over a man built like a child
Right.
and then sat home for a year.
Yep.
Because
That's
fuck
it.
it, what am I going back there for? But the last thing I wanted to get into tonight was Jey Uso wins the IC title and then immediately the next week loses the IC title. Where you at?
I'm assuming to get ready for war. Is it War Games? Uh,
Yeah,
I think it's. I would imagine it's that, and to technically make Braun Breaker a two-time IC champ before. I feel like Braun Breaker is just they're just keeping him steady until maybe the Rumble,
right.
and then I don't know. Is he the guy that smashes through Cena at the end of 25 or something? Like I could see John being like, you know what I should do? this guy this guy gets it, you know.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I don't know. That's just I was never a big the Usos I like together. So this since they've broken up, I could care less what either one of them do.
right.
I need
Um,
them back with Roman is what I need.
yes. If this isn't all to feed the war games or whatever,
Right.
I'm thinking maybe since we didn't get like a proper Jey Uso IC title chase, I
Yeah.
think the point here was to give us a taste, and
Yeah.
then the thrill is in the chase.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but then for him to get it back, he's got to beat Braun Breaker twice.
Yeah.
So uh, that's the only thing I don't like about all of this is beating Braun Breaker again. We're like recently like Gunther and Roman streak, and like they put such a high emphasis again on wins and losses
Yeah.
for the first time in like 20 something years.
Yes.
That like now, like I don't want them to beat anybody. Like you
Right.
got to beat somebody, but like to beat Braun Breaker again, I can't get on board with that.
No, no, that shouldn't happen for a long time with a huge build, like world title level build, you know. Um, I would say if Breaker drops it at Mania, making somebody like the new guy, and then you give Breaker Cena at the end of the year, and Breaker sends Cena packing, uh, then Braun is the guy by the end of Cena's 25, right? So now you have your future, right? I mean, Breaker versus Gunther at WrestleMania 42 for the World Heavyweight title.
Well, at that point, it's going to be the undisputed World Heavyweight WWE Universal Championship.
Universal,
Yeah,
yeah, with all kinds of colors,
yeah.
red, blue, yeah, everything.
Might be some yellow in that motherfucker. Who knows?
Who knows?
All right, bud. I think this is a good place to stop. How do you feel?
Yep.
All right. Well, let's get this thing uploaded onto the internet, and you know, maybe we'll turn around in a day or two and put a couple more of these things in the can.
I'm ready.
What do you think about that? Sounds good to me. All
Sure.
right. So this has been Podfluxxx episode number 71. And motherfluxers, we'll catch you on the other side. Gimmick. Later, Rick.
Later.